The true discipleship. John chapter 8, 31 and 32. So Jesus said to the Jews who had come to believe in him, "If you remain in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will make you free." There are few New Testament passages which have such a complete picture of discipleship as this passage has. Herein is set out the whole map and goal of the way of discipleship. Discipleship begins with belief. The beginning of the discipleship is the moment when a man accepts what Jesus says is true, when a man accepts all that Jesus says about the love of God, when a man accepts all that Jesus says about the terror of sin, when a man accepts all that Jesus says about the real meaning of life. Then on that day, the man begins to be a disciple of Jesus. Discipleship means constantly remaining in the Word of Jesus. What does it mean to remain in the Word of Jesus? To remain in the Word of Jesus involves four things. It involves constant listening to the Word of Jesus. It was said of John Brown of Haddington that when he preached, he paused every now and then, as if listening for a voice. The Christian is the man who all his life listens for the voice of Jesus. The Christian is the man who will take no decision until he is first listened to what Jesus has to say. It involves constant learning from Jesus. The disciple is literally the learner, for that is what the Greek word means. All his life a Christian should be learning more and more about Jesus. The shut mind is the end of discipleship. It involves constant penetrating into the truth, which the words of Jesus bear. No one can hear the words of Jesus once. No one can read them once and then say that he understands the full meaning of them. The difference between a great book and an ephemeral book lies precisely in the fact that we read an ephemeral book once and we never wish to go back to it, whereas we read a great book many times and go back to it time and time again. To remain in the Word of Jesus means constantly to study and think about what he said and is still saying to us until and more of its meaning becomes ours. It involves constant obeying of the Word of Jesus. We study the Word of Jesus not simply for academic satisfaction or for intellectual appreciation, but in order to find out what God wishes us to do. The disciple is the learner who learns in order that he may do. The truth which Jesus brought is truth designated for action. Discipleship issues in knowledge of the truth. To learn from Jesus is to learn the truth. "You will know the truth," said Jesus, "and what is the truth that we will know?" There are many possible answers to that question, but the most comprehensive way to put it is that the truth which Jesus brings to us shows us the real values of life. The fundamental question to which every man has consciously or unconsciously to give an answer is, to what am I to give my life? Am I to give it to a career? Am I to give it to the amassing of material possessions? Am I to give it to pleasure? Am I to give to the obedience and to the service of God? The truth which Jesus brings enables us to get our scale of values right. It is in his truth that we see what things are really important and what things are not. Discipleship results in freedom. The truth will make you free. In his service is perfect freedom. Discipleship brings us for freedoms. It brings us freedom from fear. The man who is a disciple never again has to walk alone. He walks forever in the company of Jesus, and in that company fear is gone. It brings freedom from self. Many a man full recognizes that his greatest handicap and his greatest enemy is his own self, and many a man in despair cries out, "I cannot change myself. I have tried, but it is impossible." The power and the presence of Jesus can recreate a man until he is altogether. It brings freedom from other people. There are many whose lives are dominated by the fear of what other people may think and say. H.G. Wells once said that the voice of our neighbors sounds louder in our ears than the voice of God. The disciple is the man who has ceased to care what people say, because he thinks only of what God says. It brings freedom from sin. There is many a man who has come to the stage when he sins, not because he wants to, but because he cannot help it. His sins, his habits, his self-indulgences, his weaknesses, his irritabilities have so mastered him that, try as he will, he cannot break away from them. Discipleship breaks the chains which bind us to our sins and enables us to be the person we know we ought to be. "Oh, that a man may arise in me, that the man I am may cease to be." That is the very prayer which the disciple of Christ will find answered.